Okay. Hey, everybody. Steve Wilks is no longer a New York Jet defensive coordinator. Wow. I mean, we're talking about some big news today. Um, I expected Steve Wilks to get fired at the end of the season. Um, I did not think that AG was going to make that kind of move in season. I think there's some nuance to the decision that he made. And so we're going to talk about that. But first, I know I'm wearing a funny headset. I've been told my audio is too echoey. So I'm trying something different. Hopefully it works. If not, I'll try another thing. But we're just this baby channel, just trying to figure things out on our road to 100 subscribers. Hopefully, here before the end of the year, we're up to 60. So we're getting there. And I appreciate everybody that's tuning in. It's been fun. So make sure you hit like and subscribe, and submit your comments. I do respond to comments when I see them. But today, Aaron Glenn met with the media and decided that it was time to move on from Steve Wilks. He has made the decision to pass the duties on to Chris Harris, who has been on the staff as passing game coordinator, defensive backs coach. Chris Harris, was looking up earlier. He is former player, much in the mold of Banjo, kind of a guy that played the game and maybe brings some new energy. He does get to call the plays, which I think is the interesting nuance in this decision, because ultimately, Aaron Glenn could have decided to move on from Wilks and take over play calling, but he's not doing that. He's going to operate like he's been operating as, kind of CEO of the team. And I'll be honest, I think it's the right decision for him. Aaron Glenn is a very smart man in a lot of ways. He knows that this has been a bad season. He knows the media has been riding the Steve Wilks needs to go train. Fan base has as well. Glenn pays attention to media. He pays attention to X. I don't care what he says. And the reason why I say that is because every single time I hear Aaron Glenn talking, he brings up points that I see in articles written or on X that are not asked directly of him, and he brings them up proactively and talks about them. So, I think Glenn had one of three decisions to make after the last two embarrassing performances by the Jets defense. He could stick to the status quo and just fire Wilks at the end of the season. I think yesterday changed. I think that was going to happen. I think yesterday changed that. He could fire him, take over play calling. But let's think about that. The negative of that is he takes over play calling, and they're terrible still for the last three games. And by the way, two of the three games they have to play are against, New England and Buffalo, who, let's be honest, does anyone think those are going to be close games? Those will be multiple digit, they'll be double digit underdogs in both those games. So all that would do is make him look worse as the head coach. Look, you fired the guy and your team still sucks. Or option three, fire him now, put Chris Harris as the DC, say Chris Harris is going to call the games. If it doesn't go well, I mean, Chris Harris is an interim defensive coordinator. Who cares? It's not a big deal. And if it goes really well, maybe he says, "Hey, Chris, you'll have a shot at taking on the role next year." Now, I don't think that should be the way it goes, because personally, I think the Jets need to bring in somebody. And again, I don't know enough about Chris Harris, so let me just actually, I'm gonna put a pin in that one and wait. I just think the Jets defense is so bad that God himself can come down and call plays, and the Jets defense will continually fall for play action passes and crossers over the middle and not know what to do. That's just the reality. Now, why did Steve Wilks need to get fired now? What made this decision come to light? They gave up 34 and 48 points back to back, and truthfully, the Jags probably could have scored 60 plus if they kept their foot on the gas and Trevor Lawrence played a fourth quarter. Trevor Lawrence had a historic performance yesterday, never done before in the NFL. I mean, that's not great. Jets haven't had a turnover, an interception all season. They're on their way to potentially making history. Also not great. Um, take all of that and then mix in with it two things that to me have changed over the last 2 weeks. That is a absolute indictment on Wilks. The effort from the defense, tackling, pursuit, execution, has been an abomination. It's been an embarrassment. You cannot allow that to continue. Add to that, yesterday, two guys who I have always believed, forget about their talent, but I've always believed they're leaders and stand up guys on the field and off the field. Jermaine Johnson and Quincy Williams refused to talk to the media after the game. It's their prerogative, as Glenn says. They're adults. They get to make that decision. But you just gave up 48 points and 34 points back to back, and you won't meet with the media after the game. That is an awful look. No different than it was an awful look when Justin Fields got benched and refused to talk to the media. You're an adult. You have responsibilities. You get paid a lot of money to do the game, to play that game. Jamien Sherwood's had a bad year. He stood in front of his locker room, took all the bullets yesterday. Tony Adams, who doesn't belong in the NFL, is answering questions. Jermaine Johnson and Quincy Williams need to be answering for that performance yesterday. They chose not to. That is an indictment, an absolute indictment on this team, on this defensive coordinator. His lack of accountability, the players tuning him out. So Glenn knew that. He acted as if he did not know in the presser today. I call BS. He's well aware that those guys did not talk to the media. He's well aware how bad it looks. And so it was a perfect, it's like, when you get opportunities to do something, this was his opportunity to just go, you know what, rip the Band-Aid off. He's out. And let's just move forward. And so good decision by Glenn. Glenn is going to go into year 2. And I know a lot of people don't believe this. The Jets are going to be a 3-win team going into year 2. He's going to have a hot seat going into year 2. There's no way Woody Johnson and this fan base are going to sit here and let them go 3-14 next year, and he gets a year 3. He has to make difficult decisions. I'm confident he likes Steve Wilks. The idea of bringing Wilks in, I applauded at the time. It just didn't work. He's finished as a defensive coordinator in this league. His scheme's terrible. He doesn't get to the quarterback with any of his blitz packages. That does not adjust to his talent on the field. And we can say they don't have talent. They have talent. Everybody who has who's on an NFL roster has talent. But they are a combination of below average talent for the NFL and below average game planning and coaching, which leads to what we've watched now all season. The New Orleans Saints, on the other hand, play hard, execute, and they don't have a ton of talent. And they've won back-to-back games against 2 teams that are fighting for the playoffs. Do you really think the Jets are going into New Orleans are going to win? No way. It's not happening. Jets will probably be a touchdown underdog, and they should be. Okay? So the other 2 things that we learned in the presser today from Aaron Glenn that I don't think was great, not great, I shouldn't say that, wasn't a great surprise to anyone, was no answer yet on Garrett Wilson. And it seemed very, very sketchy about whether he's going to play again this year. I believe he won't. Glenn was like, well, we'd like to see him play again, but I got to talk to the doctors. And so he's kind of waffling there. I think that there's no reason a guy who's dealing with a knee injury on a team that's 3-11 on their way to 3-14 that you should put him out there. So Garrett, get healthy. We'll see you next year. Glenn did not name a starting quarterback, not surprising. What would be surprising is if Brady Cook isn't the starter. The second most surprising thing would be if it's Tyrod Taylor. The most surprising thing would be is if they go back to Justin Fields. I said it last week. The way Justin Fields handled his benching was embarrassing. He didn't talk to the media. Okay, again, he gets that choice. I will say is a bad choice. No different than Diego Pavia gets the choice to say F Indiana and then go out and party in New York City and then put a chat GPT apology on or some AI tool apology on X on Sunday after probably his agent was like, dude, you're destroying your draft position. Justin Fields getting paid $20 million this year to be the worst starting quarterback in the NFL, getting benched and then refusing to talk to the media is just an awful look. And now I'm not saying he's not hurt, but his knee injury would not be an issue if he was starting. His knee injury is an issue because he knows he won't be here next year. He doesn't want to risk anything, so he's going to just quit because that's what it is. It's what do they call it? Quiet quitting. It's quiet quitting. He's quiet quitting on the team. I don't see a world where Aaron Glenn goes back to him after he defended his decision to acquire him, after he praised him in the preseason and talked about how he was going to be a quarterback for the Jets, and then defended him all season, including after Woody Johnson took his shots on him. For that guy to then just be like, yeah, I don't want to run wishbone. I don't know. I got my knee hurts. Not healthy. He should not ever step foot on the field for the New York Jets again. So, my expectation, Brady Cook. Yes. Garrett Wilson. No. Jets against New Orleans this week. Let's call it a 6-point underdog as my early prediction. And I think they deserve that. And I think they'll lose again. And really, we just got to pay attention. And during the middle of the week, I'll probably post another pod about the Jets having a real path to getting to number one still. It's not, it's not probable, but it's not impossible. And I think maybe that'll help, those of you who hate the tanking philosophy that I've had really since like week 7. Maybe you'll feel better about this because I know a lot of you guys who are anti-tank or like, well, we just want to win games and we don't want to trade for move up in the draft. Well, this will make you happy. Look, the reality is they're going to lose, but if they lose out, could they get the number one position in the draft? Yes, it's a possibility. And we'll look at the schedules of all these teams, and I'll talk about where those games might land. Jets getting to potentially number 1 and maybe number 12 to 13, or maybe they get to the 3rd slot in the draft pick, and 12 to 13 with the Indy pick is also a very real possibility. So, hey, lose now, win later. That's how I view it. What do they say? Lose the battle, but win the war. That's what we're trying to do right now. Last thing for me, I did my Fiore 4, and hey, I hope you listened. I went 4-0. Chargers plus 5.5. I said they could win the game. They did. Broncos plus 2.5 at home didn't make sense to me. They're a really good home team. They're battling for the first seed in the AFC. They win the game. Rams -6. Boom. And then I said Saints plus 2.5. That Carolina did not deserve to be a road favorite in that game. And Carolina proved me right. I think that they are in a very weak division. I think the Saints, I watched them against Tampa Bay play really good football. They're playing hard for their head coach. They've got some juice with Tyler Shuck, and they win the game. So I went 4-0. And then for the week, I am currently 10-4 with 1 game pending, which I have Steelers -3. I think the Steelers are going to win that game actually comfortably. That's my personal opinion. So if you followed me last week and you took any of those games, I'm in Texas, so I don't get FanDuel, any of these sports betting apps. They're not allowed in my state. Governor, let's get with the times. But if you did, you might have won some money. 10-4 with a chance to go 11-4 is almost unheard of in picking against the spread. And then going 4-0 my best bets. Now we'll do it again next week. Let's see. Was it a fluke or do I have some, maybe I actually have some basic knowledge of where I think these games can. I'm good at picking games, maybe. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out next week. But hope everyone has a great day. Again, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate all the support, the debates that we have, whether it's through comments or on X. At Paul Fiore on X. I definitely post a lot and enjoy debating those of you who disagree with me. It's always in good fun. I hope you don't ever take it too seriously if I disagree with you. I certainly don't if you do it with me, as long as we keep it respectful and don't take personal insults or shots at each other. That's what X is for to me. It's about debating our own silly thoughts on sports when none of us are in positions to have any impact on the teams that we root so desperately for. So, Aaron Glenn fires Steve Wilks. Chris Harris takes over play calling. Let's see what happens. Talk to you guys soon.